as I'd like over Saturday lunch because there's so much else to do. But Sunday lunch, that's a different matter. And you know, my ideal way of spending Sunday is just giving myself up in the warm embrace of the kitchen. Meatloaf is such perfect weekend food. There's nothing like Sunday lunch when you eat the sort of food that you know you either have to go for a long walk or just slump on the sofa afterwards. This recipe starts off with a lot of onions. It has a very good vintage, this recipe, a good heritage. And I have been told that I must use duck fat. Now, luckily, I can get duck fat at my local supermarket. But if you can't, I would use butter with a teeny bit of oil. And in go all these onions. And the thing is, the onions cook and get sweeter and get very soft. And the duck fat will just give fantastic flavour and that sort of velvety smoothness that you normally associate with fantastic pâté. I managed to extract this recipe, I insisted upon it, from a very dear old friend, and this is his mother's recipe. She must have been born, really, I suppose, just after the turn of the last century, so it's good vintage. And I always add salt if I don't want the onions to crisp up. What the salt does is make the water start seeping slightly out of the onions so that they don't actually fry. But they will get a little golden. They'll be perfect. Meatloaf, well, obviously needs meat, and beef in particular. Good beef, freshly minced. It's about 900 grams here. The thing is, meatloaf needs to be juicy, and the trouble with pre-minced meat is that often it's sat there for a while. It's perfectly good quality, but it'll just be a little drier. And actually, it's not just the dryness, because these onions here will see to that a lot, but it makes it crumblier, so it'll be harder to carve. I am thinking of everything here. Now, the onions look gorgeous. I'm going to put them to one side just so they cool a little. Into the meat goes an egg, just helps bind it all together. And now some Worcester sauce, just to oomph it up a little. No spices, because I'm staying old school here. Nothing fancy, nothing novel. I want some breadcrumbs, about 100 grams. What the breadcrumbs do is bulk up the meatloaf and as well absorb all the meaty juices as it cooks. And now the tender, beautiful onions. Want all the duck fat in the pan. Right, I'm ready to get mixing. I'm going to move pretty smartish because it's overworking mince that makes it end up tough. This isn't difficult. And actually, this is something I always think about cooking, is that everyone seems to confuse complicated with time-consuming. Because yes, this is taking a bit of time. I mean, not a tremendous amount, but you have to think about it. But it's easy. And actually, this sort of cooking is relaxing. It's the cooking that needs precision and a great deal of finicky detail. That is enough to send me over the edge. But then, that's not very hard. Now, what about half of this? I'm going to do the base first. So it really is just like a loaf. I want a flat, sort of oval-ish. I don't want any geometry professor telling me this isn't an oval. It's my meatloaf. So there's the bottom half. And now, inside my meatloaf are jewels. And these jewels are eggs, hard-boiled eggs. And when you cook the meatloaf, the eggs stay inside, they don't overcook, so that when you slice it, you will get a sort of disc of gold just beaming up at you. So now the top, I'm trying to smooth it all into one as best I can, but without being too worried. And now this baby just needs swaddling. And what I'm swaddling it with is bacon. Just going to put Slices of streaky rindless bacon carefully over the meatloaf. I want a slight overlap. Doesn't really matter if the bits of bacon slightly burst apart when it roasts. Of course, the flavour from the bacon melts into the meatloaf, and at the same time it crisps up a bit, so it's like a rather lovely coating. Yes, there is duck fat, and yes, there is bacon. And the thing about meatloaf is that it comes from a time when food was fuel. It's meant to be filling. Having said that, I have put baking potatoes in the oven for everyone, and that's partly selfish, which is that I want to fill them up a bit on the potatoes, because one of the joys of meatloaf is a sandwich made with it later when it's cold. Here we are. This needs a little tucking in. Now this is a Sunday lunch worth sitting down for. Ed's mother's meatloaf.
Thank you very much.
That's a good bit there.
There, that looks very
Meatloaf is not meant to be elegant. I don't think it. Baked potato, blue cheese dressing, chives for sprinkling.
Yeah, I love chives.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, onions cooked in duck fat.
Delicious.
Oh, look how nice it is.
Oh, well done, Ed's mum.
We're coming back to this side of the Atlantic, so crumble anyone?
Yes, please.
I'm afraid I'm serving this a bit too generously. Luckily, I don't think this is a crowd that will mind.
You know, I wasn't expecting it to be strawberry. I mean, I saw the crumble and I thought, you know...
I always assume apple.
I've never heard of strawberry.
No, neither have I.
I know, it's to resuscitate.
You haven't lived.
I like it with cream, and it's like winter version of strawberries and cream. Wimbledon, and he's sitting down and playing no tennis.